With so many aspects of the job search utilizing computer automation, one thing remains a constant. Employers still use the interview to determine which job candidate they will hire for the position.
And no matter what type of job you're interviewing for, it's not always the most qualified person who gets the job. It's more than likely the person who fits best with their company, or the one who is simply stronger in the interview. The fact is, some people are just better at interviewing than others.
This is the point of the job search, where you have the opportunity to show the employer you are the most qualified person for the position and that you fit with their company. You need to shine in the interview.
In this program, we'll take an in-depth look at the interview process and how you can prepare for your job interview. Welcome to the ultimate job search for the 21st century. Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Brett Anderson.
And I'm Tia Marlier. After all your preparation, you have finally arrived at the part of the job search you've been waiting for, the job interview.
This is the point where the employer believes you have enough qualifications for the position to be invited in to meet with them. This is the final step of the job search process.
The job interview is the single most make it or break it part of the job search process. Either you get the job or you don't. The interviewer's main objective will be to find out who you are, what you are like to work with, and how you relate to others. So when you finally get that call, be prepared and focus on how you react when you speak to the employer. You want to make the most of the opportunity after all the hard work you put into getting that call.
One of the very first impressions I have about a potential applicant is when I call them in for an interview. I really expect them to be enthusiastic and appreciative of the opportunity when I tell them I want to visit with them about a job. Sometimes I'm very disappointed. Some of them just don't recognize that the screening process has already begun and that they may either eliminate themselves or create an image that's going to be very difficult to overcome in the interview.
Now, I know this may sound like common sense to most people, but use the phone professionally for every call throughout your job search, just in case it's the employer calling to meet with you.
Oh, hi, how are you?
And be sure to have a pen and paper near the phone so that you can note what time the interview will begin and how to get there.
Oh, great.
Write it down. Ask them the name of the person or persons you will be interviewing with, and check to see if there's anything special that you'll need to bring with you. And if you normally use a cell phone as your main contact,
Can you hold on one moment, please? Thank you.
wait to answer it until you don't have any distractions in the background.
Hi, how are you?
Many employers will use email to correspond about scheduling interviews with you in your job search. Use the same professionalism on emails as you would with an employer on the phone. Be enthusiastic and thank the employer for the opportunity. Also, check your email frequently so the employer isn't waiting for you to respond.
The first impression you will give to the employer when meeting for the interview will be your outward appearance and professionalism. It will tell the employer immediately just how interested you are in the position. So think very seriously about the way you dress and the way you handle yourself when you first meet with them.
For you to make that first impression a positive one, you need to dress professionally and appropriately for every interview you go on. What you wear is going to depend on the type of position and the company you will be interviewing for, because each company will have its own dress code. And you'll find that for the most part, conservative and traditional attire is best.
When dressing for an interview, research is very important. One way to research appropriate dress attire would be to observe people working in the company you'll be interviewing with. Review their website or call the Human Resources Department for further direction on attire. The rule of thumb is to dress one step above the person you'll be working for. Keep in mind that styles and formality will change depending on the part of the country you live in, if you're from a rural or urban environment, and will also depend on the industry you'll be working in. For men, a light briefcase or professional portfolio is appropriate for carrying your documentation. Women should carry only a briefcase, not a separate purse. In all cases, your attire, jewelry, cosmetics, cologne or perfume, and hairstyle should not be distracting or overpowering. Your hair needs to be trimmed, clean, and conventional. For men, it's always better to be clean and conservative. But if you do have a beard or a mustache, keep it well trimmed and clean. See the workbook for additional suggestions on appropriate dress attire. Then take a good look at yourself before you go on the interview and ask yourself, would I hire this person? Do I make a good first impression?
Put yourself in my shoes. You have two people interviewing for the same position. Both have very similar qualifications for the job, and both interviewed well. One is dressed quite professional and looks ready for their interview. The other, not so much. They're dressed, well, not all that appropriately. They just don't make a good impression. My question, who do you think has the upper hand?
You're going to be judged by what you wear and how you appear. If you dress in a way that fits the position and the company, it tells an employer you care about the position. Use this to your advantage.
Before you sit down with an employer, you need to get everything together for the interview the night before. Things like a notepad and pen, copies of your resume, and your references. Also, take your master application and any work samples you may want to show the employer. Know where you're going and how to get there. You might even want to take a drive to the company beforehand to know exactly where you're going and how long it takes to get there. Find out which building the interview will be in and where to park. Finally, research the company and the job description one final time and review your notes. You're going to be asked questions that are geared directly to the company and the position you are interviewing for. Then, create a list of questions that might be asked in the interview and questions you could ask the employer. The whole interview situation is very nerve-wracking, but the more you prepare for the interview, the less stressful it will be.
I've conducted just the strangest interviews in the past. People have actually brought their kids and even their friends with them. I've even had people answer their cell phone during the interview. Others who just look like they're ready to fall asleep on me. I've also seen some very inappropriate interview attire. They have got to realize how important this first impression is and how they come across. Applicants need to be ready for their interview and respectful of my time.
Your interview begins the moment you're on the property of the company you're interviewing with.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see ya. Hey, what's up, Chief? Excuse me. Oh, hey. Hey, man, you see the tiny little offices they have here? Man, I'm telling you, what kind of cheapo can this boss dude be? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You need to be careful here. You just never know who you'll meet.
Hey, can you hold the door, please?
Be polite and professional to everyone you come in contact with. And this means everyone. If you make a positive or negative impact to a particular person, that news could get around to the person making the final hiring decision.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm here for a 10 o'clock appointment with Ms. Ortiz.
Okay, I'll let her know that you're here. Please go ahead and have a seat.
Thank you.
At this place, you never know who you're going to bump into. Everyone pretty much dresses the same. You don't know if it's a delivery person or the owner of the company. But one thing you can bet on is that whoever you do meet will form an opinion of your attitude. A lot of times I'll ask my receptionists who they thought were the best candidates and how they were treated. Look, people are usually on their best behavior when they get to me. But I want to know what went on out there and what kind of impression they made on my staff. We work together as a team, and the person I hire has to work with them too. So I value their opinion a lot.
For your interview, you'll need to get there about 10 to 15 minutes early. This will give you enough time to stop by the restroom and check yourself out, comb your hair, straighten your clothes. It also gives you one final chance to look over your notes of what you're going to tell an employer.
So, you're probably wondering why I'm so late. I'll tell you. There's a huge accident on Highway 5 and 1st. Man, it just took forever to get through, and then I get here, and did you know? The elevators aren't working. So, I had to take the darn stairs. And man, it is just pouring cats and dogs out there. It's just awful.
Good morning, Mr. Andrews.
Good morning, Angela. Have you been outside yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's an absolutely beautiful day. Not a cloud in the sky.
Strange weather we're having, huh? Yeah.
Don't be late for the interview. But if you are, call the employer and politely apologize. It shows you care about the appointment. And when you do, you don't need to come up with a bunch of excuses as to why you're going to be late. Simply let them know when you will be there.
Throughout your job search, you'll need to prepare for the different types of interviews you may encounter. Employers use interviews to not only see if an applicant has the proper skills and experience it takes to do the job, but they're also looking for a person who will be a good fit for their company. A common type is a one-on-one interview where you may meet with the hiring authority of the company or with human resources. Many companies are using panel interviews. This type of interview is with two or more people who tend to ask a more formal, structured set of questions. Panel members use these types of interviews to be more objective in their evaluation process. Usually, each panel member takes turns asking different questions. Address each member of the panel equally and don't play favorites of one panel member over another. You never know who on the other side of the table may have the final say. Other interviews you may encounter may be over the telephone, sometimes by email, or by teleconference, with one or more interviewers on the line. Employers tend to use these methods as a screening device to decide if they want to bring the qualified applicants in for a more formal interview. However, there are occasions when people can be hired right on the spot by these means. So speak clearly and professionally on each occasion.
For the most part, employers don't try to go out of their way to make the interview a stressful experience. But there are occasions when it's done for a reason.
Our people work under quite stressful conditions every day, so we design our interviews purposely to be a stressful experience for them. We want to see how a person handles him or herself under pressure. The way it works is we fire question after question and put you in situational experiences to see how you're going to react. The best thing you can do is not lose your temper and never let it get personal. We are doing this for a very good reason.
No matter which interview situation you come across, the key is to be positive and have a good attitude. You need to show confidence, not arrogance.
It only takes a few seconds to gather an opinion about a person. So before you open your mouth, show interest and enthusiasm about being there.
Hey, how's it going, big guy?
Come on in.
Yeah, oh, thanks. Cool, digs. Oh, man, is that a marlin? Did you actually catch that?
Yes, it is, and yes, I did.
Wow. Oh, holy cow, you must be just raking it in.
I don't always hire a person who has the most experience and qualifications for a position, but I do tend to look for a person who has a positive attitude and seems to have a good working relationship with people. I like to see someone who wants to learn new things and takes responsibility for getting things done and who actually wants this job. So I look for a person who'll be a good fit in this company.
When you first walk into the interview, be ready to give the employer a firm handshake and make direct eye contact with them. And the employer usually tries to create a relaxed atmosphere to get both of you comfortable before the interview begins. So let the employer set the tone. And if the topic of conversation is left up to you to break the ice, keep your small talk positive, like mentioning there was hardly any traffic or how easy the company was to locate. The skill of the whole interview is to try to open up the conversation and get the other person talking.
Come on in and have a seat. Thank you. So you've been at this location 50 years, right?
Actually, we just moved into this building 4 years ago.
Most interviews open up with a little bit of small talk.
Thank you.
People are usually nervous talking to someone for the first time, and knowing that this is a situation that can literally change your life doesn't help matters much. But after you sit down and get more comfortable with the employer, they'll usually begin to move the interview toward your knowledge about the company and the position.
Well, Hal, what do you know about this company?
Oh, that's funny, Bob. Because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Since I figured you probably know more about it than I do. Seeing as how you are the boss.
There's a very good chance the first question you can expect in the interview is either the "tell me about yourself" or "what do you know about this company" question. This does not mean they want to know about your hobbies or your family or the fact that you didn't do your research on their company.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been working at a small production firm for the past 4 years, and I started off as a programmer. After a couple of years, I was actually fortunate enough to be assigned the lead of a department that really had not been productive for a long time. But with other people on that team, we developed our department into one of the largest revenue-generating departments in the company. It was really...
Employers want to know what you did and what the results were. They're looking for the best person to come in and do the job. So be ready to give examples of how your skills and experience relate to the position you are interviewing for from the very start of the interview.
Yeah, well, I'm a real team player, That's what they refer to me as, Mr. Team Player. It's what I like being, a team player.
I'm glad to hear that, Hal, because that's exactly how we operate around here. So tell me, when you did work on a team, what exactly was your role? Did you ever have any conflict between any of the other team members? And if there was, how'd you handle it?
Employers tend to ask questions of what a person would do in different situations. Your answers need to explain specifically what you did and what the results and accomplishments of your work were.
We're working on this new product, and we plan to introduce it in the fall. How do you plan to meet this tight deadline?
Oh, the Para project. I saw that on your website. That's one of the reasons that I would find it intriguing to work here, and I like the way you're heading. Last summer, our department rolled out a new software package that started off behind schedule because of the design. Before the company put any more money into the product, I took it upon myself to tailor the matrix model they had in place to eliminate one of the time-heavy testing phases to get us back on schedule. That saved us a lot of setbacks and a lot of money. I think that's the value.
There's a fine balance between being qualified and a know-it-all. I'm looking for someone who's a good fit, not a superhero. I don't expect you to come in here and fix the company. I want to get a better idea of what kind of employee you would be and see how your talents can benefit this company.
An employer most likely will read your resume or application prior to meeting with you. If there are items in there that may be a red flag regarding possible gaps in your work history, frequent changes in your career, or something in your background, they will probably ask you questions about them. It's important when answering to be honest.
It looks like the last job you mentioned here was 8 months ago. So why the long gap? Is there any work in between that you didn't mention?
You have to be ready and know what you're going to say and how you're going to answer tough questions like these. Use brief, positive statements. You could point out that you're very excited about this opportunity and say something like, "After my department downsized, I took time to upgrade my skills, which also gave me time to refresh and revitalize my career goals. Then, move the conversation into the skills you bring to the position and how you can benefit the company. Tie in the accomplishments you've had in the past that relate to the position you're interviewing for now."
I've deliberately taken the time to look for the best opportunity for me and my situation. I've taken jobs in the past that were just not exactly what I was hoping for. But I really want to get into a career that I can stick with for a long time, and this is the industry I'm very excited about and want to pursue. So I took the time to enhance my skills by taking computer courses at the community college.
But what about real work experience? I'm going to need someone to come in and pick up the ball now. I'm not going to have time to teach a person new skills.
Ms. Ortiz, I am confident I can enhance my expertise very quickly. I volunteered to help program a website for a local nonprofit business. I think that proved I could really work well on a team. Also, on a couple of different occasions, I took the lead, and I even have a letter of recommendation from the head programmer of that agency. I know I can get up.
Employers can also ask you some difficult questions on what your work style is and how you handle different situations. They also want to test your creativity and ability to think quickly on your feet. Smart interviewers can determine a lot about you in an interview.
So Courtney, what did you like least about your previous job?
Well, it was a great job and a great company, and I learned a lot of valuable work experience while I was with them. But they were such a small business that there weren't very many opportunities to advance. I pretty much went as far as I could with them. I'm interested in a career in a larger company where I can continue to learn and also have the opportunity to grow within the company.
Never talk negatively about a previous job experience. Stay focused and create a positive image that will impress an interviewer that you can handle tough situations and you have what it takes to do the job.
One thing to be aware of in your interview is being asked inappropriate questions. These are questions about your personal life and other items that usually don't have anything to do with the position or your ability to do the job. Some of these questions can be considered illegal.
We offer 1 week vacation to start, and we take off all the normal holidays. Are there any religious holidays that I need to be aware of that you will need off?
Well, it's pretty simple. You can decide whether to answer the question or not answer it. The more important question is, what is the employer getting at? Now, it could be that they just don't know any better. On the other hand, there may be a specific reason they're asking the question. If it doesn't bother you, go ahead and answer it. But here's where it gets a little tricky. Depending on your answer, it may actually hurt your chances. If it's a question you don't want to answer, you can tell them you don't feel comfortable answering, and then you may have lost the job. So the best option is to answer the question as best you can, bringing the answer back to the position that ties in with your experience and qualifications.
Well, I could go either way. If there's a project that runs into specific holidays, I don't have any problem working on those days. Also, I'd be willing to work overtime if needed.
Experienced interviewers know not to ask these types of questions. But if you're asked an inappropriate question, don't get defensive and don't get emotional. Stay calm and answer in a positive way. You need to decide if you're being asked these types of questions in an interview situation, would this really be a person you want to work for?
So let's talk money. What kind of salary range are you looking for?
But salary? You trying to trick me? Because, you're not one of those cheapo companies, are you? Now you'd be telling me you don't have any signing bonuses. I got you guys figured out.
Salary can be a complicated subject. You can throw out the first number and come in too high, or you can come in too low. If you turn it back on the employer, the same situation can happen. But it's usually the first party who sets the price that ends up with the better outcome.
Salary is a difficult game, but one that's going to eventually come up at some point, and the employer will expect an answer. Now, if you've done your research, you can offer a salary range, or you can ask them something like, what do you have budgeted for the position? And then see how they answer. The interviewer will more than likely share this information with you. Now, if the employer does mention a figure up front, then there's probably not going to be a whole lot of room for negotiation.
So Courtney, you saw the salary posted in the announcement. Do you have any questions about that?
Actually, I have to say I'm really interested in the position. However, I was just a little disappointed with the offer being lower than expected.
If you decide to negotiate for a higher salary, be very careful about it. Bring it up, then let the employer make the next move and see how they respond. You'll know right away whether or not this is something you should pursue.
Really? That's the salary we offer all our new employees.
Well, I completely understand, and I researched several salary surveys and talked with people doing similar occupations. You're right, the salary is very reasonable for a starting position. But based on the research I've done, my level of experience, and how long I've been doing this type of work, I know I can come in and hit the ground running and benefit the company immediately.
I'm sorry, Courtney. The way things are going right now, it just isn't negotiable.
Oh, I see. Well, are there any types of opportunities for an increase down the road based on productive employment?
Some starting salaries are fixed, but sometimes they can be negotiated. But don't just look at the base salary. You need to know what the whole compensation package includes and weigh it carefully. Then decide that, if they don't negotiate, is it worth possibly losing the job offer? In any case, don't be pushy or demanding. Rather, handle it in a positive, professional manner. Balance your request on what you have to offer and what your needs are.
Never be the first to bring up the salary or benefits in the initial interview, only if the interviewer brings it up first or if the job is offered. You don't want to make it sound like money is the only reason you're there. But if the employer does bring up the salary question in your interview, there's a good chance they're interested in hiring you. Don't eliminate the possibility of the offer by being unreasonable at this stage of the game.
I think that's all the questions I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Actually, I've got 2 questions I'd like to ask. First, what is the most challenging thing about this position? And second, if you would, could you describe a typical day for this position?
Don't ask questions that have already been covered in the interview or information that you could have found through your research. That could turn off the employer if you don't do your homework. Just make sure that you have a clear understanding of the position and the working environment before you leave the interview.
At the end of the interview, one way or the other, the employer will probably have enough information about you to make a decision. So don't start the interview all over again by bringing up new information about yourself. Instead, be confident you have told the employer everything he or she needs to know about you.
Well, I believe I have everything I need. Do you have any questions you need me to answer?
Nope, just pretty much when do you want me to start?
End the interview with a firm handshake and thank them for the opportunity. Leave on a positive note that gives them the confidence they have a top candidate in you.
Well, Courtney, I believe I have everything I need. Do you need any other questions answered from me?
No, I think I'm fine. I just really want to thank you for taking time out of your day to meet with me. I really do appreciate it. Ms. Ortiz, I know this is the job I want to do, and I think I could be really good at it. So thanks again for your time.
Throughout your interview, be positive, enthusiastic, and professional. The employer is looking for a person who can be an immediate contributor for their company. So leave them no doubt that you are the right person for the job.
An effective way to put your name back in front of the employer is to send them a thank you note. It's a quick and positive way to tell the employer once again how important the position and company are to you.
I don't get a follow-up note as much as one would think. It's a nice gesture and shows me how professional a person is. I once had a candidate provide me a name of a potential customer I should talk to. She was helping out our company before she was even hired. Now that's a rare thing. But I almost always take another look at those individuals who spend the time to write a thank you note.
Never underestimate the power of the thank you note. Immediately after a round of interviews, always send a thank you card to each of your interviewers, no matter how you felt it went. It should be handwritten, brief, and to the point. Not a long letter. In it, you want to bring up some of the main points of the interview that you feel caught the employer's interest. Even if it's a position that you're not interested in, you should still send a thank you note, respectfully withdrawing your application. You never know which position may come up in the future, and you want to build that bridge continuously.
If email has been the main communication between you and the employer, it's probably okay to send a note that way. Still, a short, simple, handwritten note card is much more personal. Always check grammar and spelling on a practice thank you note first, especially on the interviewer's name and company. Then read it over carefully for professionalism and accuracy.
Following up will be critical. If you haven't heard from the employer by the date the decision is to be made about the position, call the employer and ask about the status of it. Employers want to know that you're interested in the job and expect you to follow up.
Occasionally, I get a phone call or an email from a person I've interviewed. Surprisingly, not all that often. If you want the job, let me know. I feel that if a person doesn't call or doesn't return my phone call, then I guess they're not all that interested in working here. And I'm not going to beg a person to work for me. That's okay. I usually have a lot to choose from.
Hi, this is Courtney Phillips. I interviewed with you last Thursday on the network administration position. Yes, I'm fine, thank you. Well, you had mentioned to me that you were planning on making a decision on the position this week, so I thought I'd call and check up to see if you knew any more information.
Don't give the employer the impression you're not interested in the position by not following up. Be proactive and call, but don't bug them every day. Be polite and professional and know beforehand what you're going to say. Immediately after you hang up, make a record of each call you make and if and when you should call again, and this will keep you organized when you have several companies you're calling on.
And one final thing to consider. If you do accept the offer and take the job, the least it will do for you is give you the opportunity to gain valuable work experience and possibly a foot in the door for better opportunities.
And the potential to grow within a company. And there it is, the job interview process. This can be a pretty stressful time, and there will be some successes and some failures.
Companies can only select one person for that position and turn down people every day. So if you're not hired for the position, don't get discouraged. With every interview you face, learn from each experience and try to determine what you did right and what you did wrong, and improve your interviewing skills with each one you go on.
let's review the process one more time. First, dress professionally and appropriately, no matter what position you are interviewing for.
Be prepared by getting everything you'll need ready prior to your interview.
Be aware of the types of interviews you may face. This includes the one-on-one, panel, telephone, and on rare occasions, stress interviews.
Know what questions you'll be asked even before you step into the interview, and talk up your accomplishments and results and how they relate to the skills and experience you bring to the position.
Research what the position pays against the type of salary you require when the compensation question comes up.
After your interviews, write the employer a thank you note to put your name in front of them one more time.
And finally, follow up with a phone call, letting the employer know you are still very interested in the position.
If you've made it all the way through the job search process and have gotten to the interview stage, use this chance to show the employer this is the position you want. Be prepared to sell yourself to the employer and let them know why you're the best person for the job.
Interviews are a stressful time, so don't get discouraged if you're not offered a job on the first try. Keep a positive attitude and ask the interviewer for feedback on your interviewing style. Join job clubs, do mock interviews, and keep improving with each interview you go on.
This concludes the job search portion of this series. We hope all the tools and techniques, tips and ideas that we provided will be helpful to you as you prepare for your own ultimate job search experience.
Sometimes you may feel you lack the skills and experience it takes to get the job, but it's usually the person who's willing to work hard, who has a good, positive attitude, and who will do whatever it takes, who excels in the job.